I hear birds.
That's Tamika's birds.
My springtime theme music. And the windows are closed. So that's the windows are closed.
It's nice to hear the birds though. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I see our
Hey,
register.
everybody.
Hello, hello, everyone. All right.
I was looking at the chat thinking it was participants, and I said, wow, only 2 people are here.
Coming in.
See y'all laugh. Don't get old.
It's Dr.
Don't get
Zori.
old.
I don't, we're with you.
Don't get old. Earlene Fair. I didn't know Earlene was with us. Hey, Earlene. Good to see you. It's my old buddy, Ray Lewis. Good. Hello, Gifty. Thank you for answering my email.
Hello, everyone. Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome, welcome to our Wednesday webinar series. If this is the first time that you are here, we welcome you. You're in for a treat. If you're returning, we are happy to have you back. Thank you for hanging in there with us throughout this pandemic. We've been meeting here on Wednesdays very faithfully, and we're glad to have your support. Today, we are building in the Black. We're going to share some tools for your hustle. And we have 2 very outstanding entrepreneurs that we're going to introduce to you, and they're going to share some information with you. Today, if you want to start a business and don't know where to begin, this is one of our most frequently asked questions, and we are going to address that: business basics, branding, funding, and sustainability for your hustle. In the meantime, we do have a few housekeeping tips that we're going to go ahead and talk about in a moment. First and foremost, we want to make sure that you stay active in the chat. We want to make sure that you stay active in the chat because that's where all your questions can be answered. So we want to make sure that you are in there and active in the chat. Secondly, we want to make sure that you know that you're also able to talk and converse with us there as well. Last but not least, we want to make sure that you know that this webinar is going to be shared. It'll be shared to you and sent to you via email, and you'll have access to that immediately. Last but not least, there'll be a short survey at the close of this webinar, and we really want you to provide your feedback. We value what you have to say. It helps us to be able to serve you better, so please be sure to share your comments at the end of at the close of the webinar. All righty. At this time, I'd like to introduce to some and present to others none other than our president, CEO, founder, Grand Poobah, Reverend Dr. DeForest V. Soaries Jr.
Reverend Sutton, your vocabulary is expanding every week. I'm gonna have to start Googling some of these words. Hello, everybody. Happy to be with you. And I just want to say a couple of words before our expert guests come on to help us all try to figure out how to increase our income and do it well and do it properly and do it in a sustainable way. Don't go anywhere. Be prepared to take notes. These folks can say more in 3 minutes than most people can say in 3 hours. So I want you to stay tuned. But listen, Tamika Janai, thank you for the work that you put in. We are racing towards Juneteenth. And we had a great meeting Monday night with a lot of people. And I've heard directly, I know all of you have heard directly from people who want Juneteenth to be even more special than it otherwise would have been. I've said this numerous times, and I'll repeat it on a video that we're producing. I grew up in New Jersey, like you, Tamika, you grew up in New Jersey. Where'd you grow up, Janiyah?
Tennessee, and I guess my adult growing up in Oregon.
So did you all celebrate Juneteenth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You
Even
did?
in
Did you know what it was?
Even in Oregon, they have Juneteenth parades.
But did you know what it was?
Oh yeah. I have a PhD father, so yes, I know all about Juneteenth. We did Juneteenth in our house if we did not do Juneteenth anywhere.
Well, that's great. I did not have a PhD father, and my father was from Brooklyn. And so we never talked about Juneteenth. We heard about Juneteenth. But when you really think about it, I mean, could you imagine, for instance, serving a prison term for a crime you didn't commit? and then having your term end. So, if, you know, you did your 10 years, and then no one tells you that you're free. So then you do another 2.5 years in jail. It's not funny, really. It's tragic. Not realizing you could have left the jail 2.5 years ago. Well, Juneteenth is the celebration of that kind of tragedy, in a sense, in that Black people were slaves from 1619 to 1863. And upon the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, freedom came to all of the enslaved Africans except those who live in Texas. So 2.5 years after 1863, which is what we celebrate when we have watch night service in church.
Mhm.
Watch night started New Year's Eve, 1863, and Black people were so excited. They just went to church and thanked and praised God all night to watch for freedom, except in Texas.
Yeah.
So then on June 19th, 1865, the enslaved Africans found out that they were free 2.5 years later. And from 1866 up until now, we've had these celebrations. I never knew the story behind Juneteenth. All I knew was that it was a big party and family reunions. And so this year, for the first time really in my adult life, I am participating in an actual Juneteenth festival, but I decided that just going to be a guest speaker is certainly insufficient. And so I want to thank the two of you for helping me flesh out my desire to include our entire team, our entire community, our entire movement, so that we now have a dfree Juneteenth campaign. And we have now dozens of people that have signed up to be dfree Juneteenth ambassadors. And starting this week, we are working with motivating, encouraging our ambassadors. And the role of the ambassador is to spread the word that for us, Juneteenth is not just going to be a parade and a party, but it's going to be the launching of using our new online academy for free, so that while we're celebrating freedom from chattel slavery, we plan to celebrate and execute freedom from financial slavery and freedom to achieve financial freedom. So listen, if you're interested in being a part of this dfree campaign for Juneteenth, you can be a volunteer, you can be a leader, you can start a group. What we're doing is organizing a national dfree experience so that by fall, we could have a national dfree celebration, and Juneteenth will take on a meaning that it's never had before. So listen, just check the box. We've got a poll. You don't even have to send an email. Just identify which role you'd like to play. I think there should be 4 questions on the poll. You can be an influencer, you can be a leader, you can be a volunteer, or you just may want more information. And if you fall into one of those categories, just let me know. We'll be in touch, and we will go together towards that great celebration, where on June 19th, we'll have a large national online event with Earth, Wind and Fire, Felicia Rashad, and other celebrities and community leaders. We've got HBCUs involved, the Urban League is involved, Ebony Magazine's a co-sponsor, and we'll give you all that information. But for our purposes, dfree has a very specific role, and our role is to help people learn how to achieve their financial dreams and to achieve financial freedom. So God bless you. Listen, you all have a great webinar today with our 2 experts, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you who today want to sign up to be a part of our dfree Juneteenth campaign.
Thank you, Dr. Soares.
Excellent. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I see a few people in the chat that were actually on Monday's call, and they're ready to get started. And so we're really excited. Keisha, thank you so much for volunteering. We're going to pop the poll up. You can, that didn't sound right. We're going to put the poll up during the session so that you can go ahead and let us know that you're interested, but you can also drop it in the chat and we'll be able to reach out to you directly. So for anyone that's interested in getting started, here's the poll right here. You can go ahead and select your option. If you're interested in more than one, you can email us or just drop that in the chat so we can make sure we get you linked into all the various roles that are available. So we'll give you a second for that. And hi, I'm Tamika, the Executive Director of dfree. We'll do intros while you all are taking the poll. Really excited to be here today. It's every Wednesday. We've been here for over a year now. We're
Yeah.
a year and a quarter at this point. We started last March and we're here. So we're very excited to have you all today. We have amazing guests. This is going to be a great session. I know I have so many friends who have either started businesses in this season or their businesses are growing and thriving in spite of the pandemic. And so it's very exciting to have two expert entrepreneurs on our call today. Janaya, how you making out?
Doing good. Hi, everybody. Janaya, Deputy Director. I see a lot of new names on here. So welcome everybody to Wealth on Wednesday, but doing well and getting excited as we help people kind of ramp up in the next 30 days. This is an exciting thing to mobilize around. Very thankful for Dr. Shori's leadership. You know, Tamika and I say we kind of get to study with someone who's done community mobilization, and so this is inspiring to me. So I'm very excited. You know, we're kind of all things Juneteenth and how that wraps up into, you know, our economics. So I'm excited about the action part of that. And Dr. Soares mentioned, you know, but I have done Juneteenth every year. You know, my father is serious business. He's an educator. So this is exciting to have something around it in action. And we always volunteered, or he was very much like that. So this gets to be kind of the other side of that in fruition for me as an adult in around something I'm so passionate about. So I'm excited about this.
Yeah, this is actually going to be the first time I've officially, last year was the first year that I celebrated Juneteenth. I'm here in Philly since we were on lockdown still. I have a relative here who actually did a Juneteenth celebration. So we did that last year. But this year, to your point, I'm excited to not just celebrate and have a barbecue, but to really take action and get to wrap it in the work that we're doing. So we all know that financial freedom is a huge part of being free. And so we want to make sure that we address those issues as we go forward. So I think, you know, our guests actually started talking before the webinar even started. So I am hoping that you all have, if you're interested in starting a business, if you're running a business now, today is going to be a really, really great treat. So I guess we want to go right to our first guest, Mr. Furman Espinosa, our first expert entrepreneur. Welcome to dfree Wealth on Wednesdays. How are you?
Doing well, thank you so much, and really privileged to join the dfree organization today. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So let's dive right in. Tell us who you are, what you do, and where you fit in the entrepreneurship landscape.
So great to do that, Tamika, and good afternoon to everyone. I actually, when I first started my career soon after graduating, I worked for about 3 years at a business incubator program that was specifically designed to assist would-be or existing entrepreneurs, minority and women-owned, with not only getting their businesses off the ground, but for those that had a level of maturity, how do we get them to the next level? So I was charged with putting together specific business plans and making sure that we packaged those businesses in such a way where they were more attractive to either attract contracts at the governmental level or private sector level, but also being able to make them appealing to banking institutions in terms of raising capital. So from that perspective, I did that for the first 3 years of my career, and this is where my passion for entrepreneurship, though I don't own a business right now, but a lot of that experience has not changed, and I've been using that to assist others in the process.
Excellent.
Excellent. You know, entrepreneurship is one of the one of our most asked questions. Like when we engage with people when they're on their financial journey and they are taking a look at not only their income, you know, opportunities to expand or grow. We tend to get a lot of questions around entrepreneurship. So some of the work that you've done, you've really helped people with some of the basics of starting their businesses. So what are, I think we call it a business, entrepreneur starter kit. Like what are the things that you help people if you're kind of advising them on the step one? A lot of people ask us like, how do I get started? I have these ideas. I want to kind of increase my income. What should I do to get started?
Yeah, those are great questions, Janaya. And what I would say is, I think it really starts with documenting what your vision is from a business perspective. It's not just enough to have an idea, or I think I've got this great solution that can work. You have to document what that idea is. And as I was coming up in school and kind of majoring in business and, understanding what the concept of going into business is, it really came down to the 4 Ps. Now, I don't know, it's been 20 some odd years ago if the curriculum has changed, but it was always around the 4 Ps. Do you have a product? At what price will you sell it? Where can you sell it? And how do you promote its existence? So from a 4P perspective, product, place, promotion, right, and price, all of those elements are important. And I would add a 5th P to that, which is really proficiency and or passion. You just don't get into business because everybody else is successful at it. You really have to have a passion and a proficiency for what you're looking to sell. So if I were to give you kind of the basics, it's understanding what can you bring to the market, what's your competitive advantage, at what price can you sell that solution, can you generate recurring revenue from that sale, and how do you then promote its existence? So I think it really comes down to having those basic elements, but it really starts with, do I know what I want to do, and documenting that.
That's super, super inspiring. The 4 Ps are still being taught. I'm celebrating the 10th anniversary of my MBA.
Great.
So I was like, yes, they're still there. But I love that you added the others, the proficiency and passion, because that's really, really important. We get a lot of people that get super excited, and you might have the passion part, but you're missing all the rest of the Ps. And if I might, you said another P that I think people often skip, especially in the environment that we're in, where you could start a business or a side hustle immediately. It's the plan. A lot of people are skipping that business plan step. And not to say that you need to have a super, super thorough, ironed out every single category. Like I remember taking a class on writing a business plan, but you need to have some sort of thing put down. And so I really thank you for pointing that out. What is one of the biggest misconceptions people have when starting a business?
Yeah, a great question. And I wish that we had enough time, but I think most people feel that if I have money, I can be successful in business. And I really do think that that's not always the case. And in fact, when I go back to my experience, we helped out a number of entrepreneurs that had great plans, but were unable to really manage the prosperity that came their way. So if they got a huge contract or they had a thriving product or solution that was being purchased consistently, they didn't know how to handle the financial aspects. And so just having funds or access to capital doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be successful. In fact, 70 to 80% of entrepreneurs within the first year fail. And it's not so much because they don't have access to capital as much as it is lacking the administrative skill to be able to manage through that prosperity. So having money is one thing, but it isn't the end all in terms of you being able to be successful as an owner. In fact, I would put that as secondary to having that proficiency that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, wow. That's a great point. I didn't even think about that. Most people start a business just to get the money coming in, but can you manage it on the back end?
That's correct.
That's a big point.
Especially, I would say with, we've seen that with a lot of online businesses where blessingly so, but they weren't prepared if they went viral or they weren't prepared. And I've seen a lot of businesses that would struggle with keeping up and actually almost harm their business because maybe they had bad reviews or they weren't getting their product out in time or they were struggling and not managing that, because the goal is that you want to like grow, but they weren't prepared. And that might be part of the planning portion of, how do you release product and manage expectation without having the good thing of it going viral, but without it kind of hindering your business if you can't keep up with that kind of demand. So that's very good. One of the things you mentioned earlier that I always got with banking was some of the times people don't prepare as they're getting started. They're so focused on, growing my business and the P's and the things to get started. There's some key things that they can do to position themselves for where they're going that they miss a lot of the times when they get ready to go get funding, right? Or they go get ready to access capital, they go get ready. Any tips, and I know you might not have talked about any tips you have, because I know you talked about helping position them for when they're getting ready to grow or they're getting ready to go get access to banking products or funding.
And another great question, Janaya. And I think what happens all too often in our community, I don't think we pay enough attention to our record keeping platforms, whether we have one that's formally in place or if we have to manually track. It's important to keep track of that. So every receipt, every sale, it's important to document that. And there are times when I would imagine that small business owners will say, well, I'm not that big of a business, so I don't need to concern myself with really tracking my taxable, what are the taxable implications of this transaction? Or maybe I can just enter into a contract with you, Janaya, where you said you're going to buy $10,000 worth of goods. And let's just have a handshake. You and I went to the same school. So there's a lot of informality that I think our business owners, and not that it's out of ignorance, it's not that they do it deliberately, but what happens is when it comes down to them presenting, what is your financial viability? So it's okay for you to not report that $10,000 sale because you're like, hey, I don't want to pay taxes on it. Give me cash. But when you go for a $100,000 loan and they say, well, what have your sales been? You can't document that $10,000 sale by way of your financials or by way of your tax filings. So record keeping is essential. And what I was talking to Sean about a couple of days earlier was everything has to be dotted from an I and crossed from a T perspective. Again, your record keeping and the infrastructure that you need to have to manage that business, the transactions, the dollar amounts, where it goes, to whom it was paid. And when you can package that, I apologize, my apologies, I desactivated my video. When you can package that, that's what's going to give insight to an institution to say, I can lend Janaya $150,000 because she's proven to me she's got $1 million in sales. Nothing worse than saying, listen, I have $2 million in sales, I just don't document it. That's not going to be a good look if you're trying to get that type of financial support from an institution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I hear you. And then the lawyer brain in my head is like, oh God, the contracts by the handshakes. And as the deals get bigger, it becomes more and more important for you to do that. And so it's almost the catch-22 when you're trying to be that familiar business person. And, I have a great network and I can do business by handshake. If you can't document it, it doesn't necessarily exist. And so while you get the cash, you don't necessarily get the full long-term benefit of the deals that you're doing. You mentioned business incubating earlier, and I know, I've seen a lot of those things pop up, and there are a lot of companies now, especially with like the Black Lives Matter, thing. Companies are trying to invest in businesses and kind of incubate. Can you talk a little bit about that concept and what a business incubator actually does for a business?
Sure. In general, what a business incubator is, it's a partnership that generally happens between state governments and local governments to identify either physical space so that startup entrepreneurs or even existing entrepreneurs that might be in that 1 to 3 or 5 year maturity level have the access to either physical space to conduct their business. In years past, you actually needed that, but you both made mention of the fact that nowadays, with the advent of online technology, you might not need a physical location. And in fact, many businesses are kind of rethinking really around the pandemic, do we need all the physical brick and mortar that we used to have to conduct our business now that we've been operating remotely and effectively so over the course of the last 12 to 15 months. So incubators are really designed to provide physical space, shared services so that let's say all three of us, right? You, Tamika, myself, and maybe Janaya, if we're in the same incubator space, we share utilities, we share certain expenses. But then, of course, those entities are also going to have but administrative and technical support programs that you will likely have to attend, such as an 8-week a business administration program, or how to ensure that your business is positioned for either financial capital and or that next level of growth. So those incubators will give you office space, shared expenses to a certain extent, but also give you the technical resources and courses that you may be mandated to attend for most incubators, not all of them.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it gives you the resources, but also the support. That makes sense.
Correct.
Those are kind of exciting to watch. I've watched some of those around here in Dallas. And some of them are specifically targeting, much like you mentioned earlier, women businesses of color, so, and they'll take certain types of businesses in them as well. So that
Correct.
it's not all the same kind of business. So you get this synergy, and they'll even like barter between each other. So I've seen like, I need a graphic designer, and they'll kind of build this incubator space where you have someone in there and they might be trading services as they're all supporting each other, kind of growing their business as well. So I've seen those be really successful. It's exciting to watch those. That kind of leads us to, Phi Beta Sigma fraternity and the bigger and better business program. I always call it the Better Business Bureau. So I'm sorry.
Just as powerful, just as powerful.
Right. So, that's how we actually got connected with you, because dfree is piloting with actually the region for the Sigmas. And so we were able to kind of talk about and align with the bigger and better business program, the BBB. Do you guys call it the BBB?
That is correct. It is bigger and better business. And yes, we do abbreviate it triple B.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Let me do that. So I can the wrong thing. But what are some administrative, kind of along that incubator kind of thought, what are some things that you guys do when folks are interested in starting a business? And what drew us to you is that you guys actually open out to the community.
Yeah, so, and again, another great question, Janaya. And before I answer that, I do want to say that it really is a privilege for me to attend this on behalf of our Eastern Regional Director of Bigger and Better Business. His name is Ben Alston. And literally he's doing a fine job of leading that program in the region. I serve as the Bigger and Better Business Coordinator for New York State. And at a national, from a national 50,000 foot view, Bigger and Better Business is one of our national programs, our very first one actually, that was introduced back in 1924. And really it focuses on our umbrella program called Project Seed, which stands for Sigma Economic Empowerment Development. Underneath that, we have a number of pillars such as financial literacy, economic empowerment, generational wealth, volunteer income tax assistance programs, and then of course, we have our Sigma Business Network. So to answer your question, what the totality of the Bigger and Better Business program really is to promote, support, adopt, and provide the type of patronage assistance to all businesses, obviously Black and Brown businesses, in terms of our footprint. So that's at a high level. We don't have specific programs that provide that type of technical business plan creation, technical assistance, if you will. But what we do is we do have a number of programs around the country, and certainly each region can conduct those programs when we bring in subject matter experts who are either within the fraternity or outside of the organization. And as was mentioned earlier by, I believe, Tamika or yourself, we do bring in the public when it comes to educating entrepreneurs that are in operation or would-be entrepreneurs, so that they can become informed on those critical elements that they need to consider before launching a business of their own.
I love that. A lot of times it's not always that you have to be the resource, but connecting people with the resource is just as impactful, especially in our communities. So many times, there are programs that exist or resources that are available that if they don't show up right at your door, local to your community, we don't know about them. And so, even though you guys aren't necessarily the subject matter experts, being able to give people access to that and bringing it locally is really high impact work. And so I just want to applaud you all. And I didn't realize that it was, it's been a part of you guys' history since 1924. That's huge. That's huge when you think about, when we go back to, we always talk about Black Wall Street and things like that. Business has been a part of our culture for as long as we've been in this country. And so to be an entrepreneur is really to continue the legacy of our ancestors here and really helping to undergird our community with resources that we could provide for ourselves. So I really do applaud the work that you're doing there. We got some amazing questions coming in, and I know we're going to have our other guests come on, but are there any best practices or key takeaways that you'd like to share with our audience before we transition to our next guest? And we'll also bring you back at the end for questions, but any key takeaways so far?
I would say, two main things. Getting into business is exciting, but getting into business is a very serious commitment. And so you don't do it because you think you're going to be the next person to appear on Shark Tank. Growth and success do not come overnight. So understand it's going to be a long play of consistent hustle, right? Staying on the theme of the program today, it's going to be a long play of consistent hustle. And understand too that as a small business, you are that business's brand. So you can't separate yourself from that business. Unlike, say, a CEO of an Apple, if Tim Cook today, heavens forbid, decides to leave, Apple has established itself as such a brand that it kind of doesn't matter who's at the helm. But when it comes to your small business, you are that business's brand. So what you do, what you say, how you interact, all of those things are going to matter in terms of whether people are going to buy from you, support your business. So, as you grow, you might be able to separate yourself from that. But initially, you and your business are one and the same brand. So if you're thinking about doing it, make sure that you know it's a serious commitment and understand you can't separate you, the person, from the business, and everything that you do is going to impact the either short-term or long-term success of that operation.
Excellent. Great.
That's so impactful. That's so impactful. Thank you so much. We're going to make sure those of you that ask questions, don't worry. We're going to bring everyone back for a good Q&A panel here at the end. So thank you so much. And then we'll see you in just a moment. Make sure we get these questions answered.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much. So I think we have a poll. Clearly, we have some business owners in the audience because these questions are absolutely phenomenal. And I've had to hesitate with answering some of them. But tell us about your hustle. Tell us, where you are in your entrepreneurship journey. Are you a business owner? Are you interested in starting a business? Do you have an idea, but you haven't explored it yet? Are you employed full-time? Are you owning a business? It's just not my hustle. And if you're both, then I need you to just drop that in the comments. Like, tell us what things you are.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see. These questions are really, really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good questions. I'm excited about Q&A.
All right, we'll give folks a second to respond to the panel. And while we're doing that, I want to bring up our next guest, Miss Jamise Pinkney, and she's going to be talking about from logo to market. She has an amazing business, an amazing branding business. I don't want to shortchange it. Jamise, welcome to the platform. How are you?
I am doing extraordinary today. Thank you all for having me. Thank you, Dr. Soares, Tamika, Janaya, Shonda, Ms. Taylor. It's exciting to be here.
Awesome. Okay, good. So about 40% of our folks are business owners. A few are interested in starting a business. All right. I love it.
Excellent.
Excellent. Well, this is all for you all. All for you all. Excellent. Well, let's dive right in. Jamise, you want to tell us who you are, where you're from, what you do, so our audience has a good background?
Well, first of all, I'm here for it. When I saw the theme, the hustle, I said, you know what? They're speaking my language and my journey. I am Jamise Pinkney, President and CEO of HighQuest Consulting Solutions. I started my company a few years ago after coming out of corporate, what we would call corporate America, and decided to just do the thing for myself. As our previous guest, Mr. Espinosa said, this is not for the faint of heart. You can't just wake up today and say, hey, I want to go into business. But we had a plan, we worked the plan, and now we're considered a government contractor, providing mission support services to our clients.
Wow. That's big. That is big. How did you tell us a little bit about the business itself? Like you just told us you have government contracts. What do you all do, whether it's respect to the government or otherwise? Like, what's the business?
So we are a government contractor. We sell ourselves as a mission support services organization. When you think about back office, from your administration, acquisition, budgeting, finance, administrative, we provide those type of services. Our core capabilities, we have about 4, is acquisition, advisory, and support services, which can include acquisition strategy planning, that life cycle management, acquisition fund recovery support, pre and post award. If anyone out there, if you're in government contracting and you've heard of the contracting officers, we stand shoulder to shoulder and sit shoulder to shoulder with them and providing in those awards, working with them on those awards and those procurements. That parlays into the areas of program management and technical support services, where we do program project management, anything, again, that's managing the work of those contracts, requirements, analysis, logistical support, which gives us some additional capabilities in the area of IT, so information technology. And then our far-reaching growth area, artificial intelligence.
Wow. Okay, so I need to have you on a technical webinar as well, because there are very few people that look like us that I know of that work in those spaces. That is incredible.
That are branching off into those businesses, absolutely.
So go ahead, Janai, you asked.
No, I was going to say, so I know government contracts is one. I do feel like we could almost have a whole kind of specialty webinar about that. Yeah, because that usually has so many questions and so many, businesses are looking to get into that space. Before we jump into that, we did talk about, you have some suggestions for budding business owners before we kind of go down the government contracts path. I love this, so I don't want to miss this part, because we have the build, brand, bank, but don't break. I want to hear that, because
that's right. That's right. So, what pandemic did for many of us in the small business space is we reimagined in some ways what business would look like for us going forward. Out of that, and just by nature of my business, I'm a lawyer, my background is law, and I set that aside to pursue government contracting as a career. I get a lot of people that come to me and ask me, well, Jamish, I want to go into business, or, how do you go about going into business? Tamika, once you, from the time you hit law school, you start getting the questions from the family and friends about the contract. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, over the years, I've just, built, I think a arsenal of information that I wanted to then share. Out of that came the logo to market concept or initiative. And what we're doing is we're helping minorities, women, small businesses, existing, those that are looking to start businesses, take those ideas from logo to market. And a lot of cases, most people just don't know how to get started, right? What do I do? Do I go to the state? Do I go to the county? I think I saw a question about, do I need a license? Those type of things. So what I've tried to do is try to help compartmentalize some of those areas so that it makes a little more sense and easier and more palatable for small business owners or those interested in going into business to understand the process. So while our Mr. Espinosa had the P's, I'm going to bring the B's. Okay. And we do that by, first of all, the first B would be believing in yourself, believing in yourself, having the confidence. And so I have a series that talks about skills out of your belief system for yourself that will enable you to do well in starting your business. The next pocket is building, right? So the word talks about building in Matthew, talking about building a solid foundation so that it will last. So you have those tools that go into your building blocks, the structure of your formation, all the legalities that go along with that, your IRS filings, the taxes, determining who you want in your space, on your boards, your vision, the logo, all of that comes in under the building umbrella. Then you have the branding. Who am I? What do I want my business to look like? Mr. Espinosa said, you are the face of the business. So that goes into your mission, your marketing, your customer base, trademark, social media, having a social media presence. So all those things that help shape the branding of your business so that you can do what? Bank on your business, right? So now you have that building block of banking, and what goes into the banking of your business. First of all, a lot of small business owners and startups may not fully understand the importance of understanding your financials. So how do I read a financial statement? If you can't read your financial statements and you can't manage the business, right? So understanding your financial statements, the finances, you're having a CPA, having an accountant, having good banking relationships as it relates to accessing capital, the banking relationships, building your wealth, opportunities, credits versus debits. That's simple basics, going back to even managing a checkbook. So that goes into the banking. And as you're moving across this anthem of B's, the believing, the building, the branding, the banking on your business. Obviously, you want to make profit, right? You're in it to ultimately do well. You want to make money at the end of the day, but it can get daunting. And so that's the other side of it. You know, it's not going the way I thought. Well, I saw so-and-so. They started their business and they seem to be doing well. Well, what about me? You know, I don't seem to be. Don't get discouraged in well doing. So that B becomes don't break. You got to stick to it. You got to stay with it. So those would be some of the things that I would share for those budding business owners, those people who are interested in starting a business. You have an idea or a thought. You have to organize what you're trying to do, but you can definitely do it.
You don't know how inspired I am. I mean, the thing is, you know, the technicalities of it, and it can be very circular, but the way you've broken it down is really, to your point, it makes it palatable for people so that it doesn't overwhelm you. And I think a lot of times we can get either overwhelmed at the idea stage and you can't get it all down, or you get so excited that you run with the idea and forget that you didn't build anything. You don't have
That's
a business.
right.
One of the questions in the chat is actually, when do you move from sole proprietorship to LLC? So you just running a business and none of the business infrastructure is there. And we'll get
I would, and you would put that right in the building stage, because you need to know, am I going to start an LLC, which is a limited liability company, which shields you from certain liabilities, or do I start a corporation?
Yep.
You know, does that make sense for me? Or do you have an LLC where your accountant may say, do you want to be an S Corp or C Corp?
Oh
You know,
gosh.
all those, you know, those things that you just can have you, you know, blow your mind. You know, and I had a client just this past weekend who, you know, it was so frustrating. They called, you know, Jamise, we need your help, please, please, please. I took some time, and, you know, they left out, because I like to educate, right?
Mhm.
You mentor, you educate, because you want everyone to be able to, you have to understand your business. Don't allow someone to come in and manage your business that you don't know what's going on.
Right.
You hear that from a lot of ball players. They making all this money and you brought X, Y, and Z in, and the next thing you know, it's time to retire. Where did all my money go? Right. So understanding who's managing with you in the business. But it's definitely doable, but you need to pace it out and make sure you're categorizing these things along the way.
Excellent. So what are some of the resources that you would suggest for people that are starting a business?
That's a great question. So I have a few that I would like to share. So the Small Business Administration obviously is a known entity, SBA.gov. You want to find organizations that's going to help promote, foster, and develop the small business success. Agencies like the Small Business Administration is really good in doing that. You also have an organization called SCORE. They provide mentoring and small business support. I think they're at score.org. You have your PTAC organizations. Those are your procurement technical assistance centers. They're funded through the DLA, I believe it's DLA.mil/small business. Go out there, you can find a PTAC center in your area. I believe there's a map, you can actually go out there and figure out where you are. But the PTAC centers can help. And these are organizations that provide mentoring, free education, free training, that will really help you, undergird you as you start out your small business. And I think I may have another, your local chambers of commerces. Connect with your local chambers of commerce. The economic development division of these commerce usually are really good organizations. Somewhere along my entrepreneurship journey, I've touched each one of these. In fact, I was selected to become one of the SBA emerging leaders. I entered into their program in 2019 and graduated from that as one of their CEOs, emerging leader CEOs. So a great program that you can apply for. But the SBA offers a wealth of information and services for the small business and existing small business, those entrepreneurs, people looking to get into business.
Absolutely. I love it. I'm inspired myself. I got my own kind of business.
The hustle, you got your own hustle.
My own hustle. Jamise, I'm about to call you on the side.
Listen, I was gonna say, let me just go ahead. Let me just hit you on the sidebar, because as busy as we are, like, and that's the thing. I saw somebody on the line, and I know we're gonna go to another question, that said that I'm employed full time and I run a business, and that's so much, at least in the beginning, what folks live, what your life looks like when you're building a business, and you're not quite ready to completely be a full-time entrepreneur, but these resources really help you to organize in a way that you can get to that point. But girl, help, I'm calling.
Right. I was
Call
gonna say,
me.
absolutely. And I know being on kind of the banking side in my background when I used to run branches, and bless our hearts, we used to come in and want to open business accounts, and we would hear, people talking, and especially Black and brown folks, we may have ignored some of these really critical steps and not really kind of got like the B's that you mentioned, or some of the things Mr. Espinoza mentioned, of getting this really solidly built so that we can grow and go forward. And so it's so exciting to see the work that the two of you are doing. Before we transition to Q&A, I would be remiss if I did not shout out your sorority, Delta Sigma
Whoop, whoop,
Theta
whoop.
sorority. Yes. Because you guys are one of our legacy partners. You've paid down over $9 million worth of debt.
$9 million.
Challenge. Yes. So congrats to you. And also you serve on the National Economic Development Committee. So we just want to shout out if there's any resources, anything for you all to share. Congrats on the $9 million. And we're so happy to have you all as legacy partners. But wanted to make sure we got that in there to share anything before we kind of transition to Q&A.
Well, I am again pleased and just excited to be here. I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, the greatest sorority on the planet, right? We are an incredible group of women. I serve on the National Economic Development Committee under National Program and Planning. For those SOARs out there, we have an incredible small women's business entrepreneurship program that we've pulled together and have been working on over the years. So for the members, we do have internal tools and resources that are key just for you as a small business owner and entrepreneur. So stay tuned for some great things coming down the pike, but economic development is on the road.
Yeah.
Somebody just shouted out your Delta Red pages. I love it. I love it. I love it. They are in the
red
chat
pages,
showing all the
indeed.
love.
Indeed.
All the love.
Indeed.
So we'll bring Mr. Espinoza back because I know there's some great questions. Shonda, I think, is going to take some of this to help us field some. Might have to help him open his camera.
I have to tell you guys.
Sure, because there's some great questions in here.
Come on back.
Questions.
There. I think he's coming now. Okay.
The Deltas are now in the chat. They're shouting you out as well. So we have a lot to talk about.
That's Alpha Chi, Tennessee State.
Oh, you see everybody coming in?
And Northern Virginia. I'm the media past president of the Northern Virginia Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta.
Yes, shout out to all the Deltas. All right, here comes the first question. Let's see. Oh, there's so many good ones. A question, oh no, but not that one. Let me see. Yeah, because The Whiteness of Wealth by Dorothy A. Brown speaks to taxes and taxation system as it relates to and how it impoverishes African Americans. Can either of you speak to this? Does anybody know anything about the whiteness of wealth and taxes and taxation system as it affects us?
I am not familiar with that resource. Happy to look into it. What I will say is that if you look at the very wealthy in this country, they have a firm grasp, either they or their accounting firm or their tax professional have tremendous knowledge about taxation and the do's and the don'ts. And many years ago, a financial advisor that I used to work for had this running joke. What's the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion? The difference is 20 years. So if you know what you're doing, right, you under the law, if you know taxes, how they work, you can take advantage of either whether it's loopholes or the taxation code itself to keep as much of your income while still, again, maintaining within the applicable laws and statutes. So I don't know that resource, but I will tell you, if we knew more about our taxation and how taxes, especially as an entrepreneur, what are those things that you can deduct, what you can't? How do you create retirement programs or deferred contribution plans as a small business owner that allow you to retain more of your wealth now, as opposed to paying it all in taxes up front because you don't have those protections. So taxes do play a role in any kind of financial freedom. Your taxes will invariably be a part of that.
Yeah, thank you. We have another question. What is a good platform for record keeping? What can we use? And that's to either of you.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
This question is, what is a good platform for record keeping?
For record keeping. Jimmy, would you like to take that? I know you've got quite a bit.
Yeah, I would just jump in there and say one good platform is QuickBooks. QuickBooks is basic. You can do the web version or you can do the downloadable. It's a standard across industry. QuickBooks is a really good system. Of course, as you grow and scale, there are other platforms out there that you can grow into for managing your finances. As it relates to payroll, ADP is a typical brand that is familiar across industries for processing payroll. But in terms of managing your everyday, and this is something that the everyday entrepreneur or existing business owner can use, QuickBooks.
Thank you so much. Another question, are there any mentorship programs that you may know of?
We're listed
Again,
on those. Mm-hmm.
Again, I would just offer, if you have someone in business that you look up to that has been there, done that, you're always wanting to look into the circle ahead of you, someone who has more, doing more than you do to keep you reaching. Find a good mentor that you can connect with that can help guide you through this entrepreneurial business process. In terms of businesses, I mentioned earlier, I believe SCORE is another good organization that provides mentoring that can be of support to organization. And Mr. Espinosa, you may have some other recommendations.
Yeah, I would say I appreciate the ADP shout out since I serve as a sales executive running their mid-market client team for Brooklyn as well as New York City. So thanks for that shout out on the payroll side of things. I will say, and you mentioned this earlier, Jamise, that your local chamber of commerce, I believe it's an untapped, it's a resource that is not tapped frequently. So if you have a chamber of commerce within the sphere of your business or where you reside, reach out to them. They are more than willing to provide that information. And by the way, they have those immediate connections to the SBA and the SCOREs of the world, and perhaps even their own membership. They can approach some of their own member businesses if you connect with them to try and take some sort of a mentorship type of relationship. So your local chamber of commerce will be extremely helpful. And I don't think many people look at those entities as a resource that can really help.
I agree.
Okay, thank you both so much. There's another question here, and I think we have two questions around the same question. So here, what are the clear steps for a single mom or single moms who are working full-time but want to become an entrepreneur? It's like, I want to take the step, but I'm afraid because I have to take care of my children. By the way, this person is also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Can I just offer just a couple of some takeaways that I want to leave with before our time run out, and maybe will help address the question in some way. Not so much about her being a single mom, but just about your desire for those who are desiring to start a business. You ask yourself, are you ready to start a business? I'm going to have you think about this a little bit differently. So I'm going to say, to engage you, when I say don't start a business, you say if. Don't start a business if you don't know the business. You want to ask yourself, why me? Why now? Do I understand what I'm getting myself into? So don't start a business if you don't know anything about that business. Don't start a business if you don't know what the consumer needs. Mr. Espinosa mentioned this earlier about the consumer, understanding what the consumer wants right now. The pandemic basically demonstrated a lot of that for some of the small business owners who now are plussed up on the cleaning services, for those, delivery services, for those on the home food, you're getting the groceries and home delivery services and things like that. They skyrocketed during COVID because there was a need. I think even pet adoption, I read some statistics with the US Chamber, pet adoption even increased because of companionship. People were looking for companionship. And so there goes the adoption. So those services. So know what your consumer needs. Don't start a business if you don't have the hustle and the strength to stick to it and hang in there. What price are you really willing to pay to do this for yourself? This is not a 9-to-5. This is a 24/7, 365 days a year gig. Don't start a business if you think that it's going to give you more free time. It is not. Again, this is around the clock, 24/7. I think Shonda may have mentioned, we've been up all morning and we were up all night, just kind of going back and forth. It just doesn't stop. But more importantly, don't start a business if you don't have the confidence in yourself and the skills to push through. We see, and Mr. Espinosa mentioned about the Shark Tank. We see the glory behind things, but we never ask someone, what is their story? How did you get there? What are some of the things you need to do? What do I need to do? Don't think the grass is greener on the other side. Really give it some thought, some heartfelt, emotion behind that. Take those ideas, put it to paper, and then you're off and running. That's all I'll say about that.
Excellent.
And Sean, if I just may, I think it really, to underscore how well Jamise articulated those points. I said it earlier, proficiency, know the business that you want to get into, and passion. If you don't have those things, ultimately, you're going to be bested by someone who does in that same industry. And the last thing that I think is really critically important is understanding that when you ask people to document, it's not that you don't trust, it's about accountability. If I don't have something written down, I don't know what my takeaways are and what do I need to do. So the business plan helps you as the owner to focus on what you need to do. It gives you and I will be deliberate here, a blueprint. And secondarily, it gives your business associates, your employees, those entities with whom you're going to enter into contracts, and understanding that you do care about accountability. So if you don't care about accountability, chances are those that you do business with won't even pay attention to it. So it's not lack of trust, it's about accountability.
That's right.
Passion, proficiency, and accountability, not just to yourself, but to those with whom you might be doing business with.
That's right. The strategic partnerships. This is why contracts are needed. Non-disclosures are needed. Teaming agreements are needed. Subcontracts are needed. All these things, these documents are needed for accountability, and it's documented. So yep. I agree. Frater Espinosa.
Tell you, with the number of questions we have in the chat, we could do a whole nother webinar with just questions. And so you all will be hearing from us with all these questions in hopes of getting all of them answered. The chat is still going, by the way, and Q&A is still happening. But as with dfree, not only do we want to be dfree with our money, but we also want to be dfree with our time. And so we're very grateful for our guests today. We have a way of reaching both of them personally. They've shared their information. That'll be located in the chat. In the meantime, I definitely want to share with you just a couple of things pertaining to dfree. First of all, we need to shout out everyone for the $1 Billion Challenge. If you're taking a look at this number, Tamika, Janiyah, are you looking at this?
We're almost to $31 million. Wow.
Absolutely. Thank you to all those who contributed and are paying down debt. We are looking forward to that. We also want to let you know that, as Dr. Soares mentioned, our Juneteenth initiative, if you're interested in learning more about that, we have a place for you to come, and that is our engagement hour. This Thursday, as in this week, we'll be meeting for mocktails and motivations and sharing information just about the Juneteenth initiative and any other questions you may have about activating dfree in your community or in your sorority, your fraternity, or your church. We also have a Leaders Thursday. That's on May 27th. If you're interested in leading the classes at your church or your organization, feel free to come and show up at that space. And then if you're a Saturday morning person, bring your coffee and have some conversation with us on June 5th, and we'll be sharing there. That's at 11 a.m. Eastern. In addition, we have Monday Night Live. Our Monday Night Lives are every single Monday night. That's our online community. That's where everybody kind of gathers and shares a wealth of information. And so we want to make sure that you show up at our Monday Night Live. It's led by our leadership at dfree, Dr. Soares, Tamika N. Stebridge Esquire, our executive director, and Janiyah Lake, our deputy director. So you can show up on Monday Night Live. That's from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. Next week, our webinar is going to be on fire again, romance versus finance. It's our Ask the Expert session led by Dr. Soares with Regina Walker. And we want you to show up again, same time, same station. So please be sure to show up there. We're looking forward to having you. If you want to contact Jamise or Brother Espinosa, Furman, you can reach them at the following. So you'll see their information in the chat, but the Sigmas are having a wonderful event tonight at 8 p.m. and they wanted to make sure that they shared it with you. So that's the Eastern Regional Bigger and Better Business. And they have some outstanding topics about capital access. So we want to get capital for your event, for your program, for your business. Show up there and you'll find out all the information. There's a Zoom link that's listed, and Jamise can be found in her program, Logo to Market. And that information is also in the chat. We thank our guests so much for their time, and we thank each of you for showing up. I think I covered everything. Is there anything else, ladies?
No, I think you did a phenomenal job. To our guest, Mr. Espinosa, Jamise, I am super inspired. You know, we get a chance to do this every Wednesday, but there are certain sessions that really just kind of stick you in a special place. And so I'm just thankful for all the insight that you all shared. I did make a commitment to our folks in the chat that if we could, we're going to gather all the questions, and if we could circulate to you all, if you have any insights or thoughts to share, we'd love to be able to gather that and share it. And we definitely have to have you back. We said it on the bat line that we probably needed more than an hour for this session, but you guys have dropped tremendous gems for our audience. And so I just really want to thank you for sharing with us today. I really appreciate it.
Yes, and if
Thank you so much. It's been a privilege.
Thank you both. If you want to contact us, you can also contact us, the dfree team, at info@mydfree.org. Last but not least, please don't forget to fill out the survey at the close of this webinar. We would love to have your feedback, and that's the way that we're able to reach you with these questions and answers and all of the information. So please, please, please make sure you fill it out. I think I covered everything. I thank you all.
Have a great rest of the week,
Thank you all.
everybody.
Have a great one.
Thank you.